My fiancé said, "I can't marry you. I love my ex." I said, "Got it." Then I canceled everything. I sold the house and moved to another state just a month later. Not long after that, her passionate ex dumped her. And me? I just smiled. Hey, Reddit. 2 weeks before our wedding, my fiancée dropped a bomb that completely destroyed the life we had built together. She told me she couldn't marry me because she was in love with her ex. I didn't beg. I didn't cry. I just said, "Message received," and walked away. Then I started carefully dismantling everything we had built. Sold the house, packed up my life, and moved to a different state. A month later, her passionate ex dumped her hard, and she completely spiraled. About a year after that, she tried to come back. Here's how everything unfolded. Let me give you some proper context because it matters. I'm 31 and work as an architect at a mid-sized firm that focuses on sustainable commercial buildings. I make a decent salary, have good benefits, the kind of stable career my parents always hoped I'd have. I'm not rich, but I'm comfortable. I own my car outright, have a solid 401k, and managed to save enough for a house down payment without drowning in debt. I met Vanessa 3 years ago at a friend's housewarming party. She worked in event planning, which explained why she paid obsessive attention to every little detail. Our first date was at this Italian restaurant downtown. She spent 20 minutes explaining the differences between pasta shapes and which sauces go best with each one. Most guys probably would have found that annoying. I thought it was charming. Funny how wrong first impressions can be. The first year was great. Really great. We followed the usual relationship timeline, became exclusive after 2 months, took our first vacation together at 6 months, and moved in together after a year. Her lease was ending, and my place had an extra bedroom I was just using for storage, so it made financial sense. Looking back, that probably should have been my first red flag, making a relationship decision based on practicality instead of emotion. But I was 28 and thought I was just being responsible. We split everything 50-50, rent, utilities, groceries, even streaming subscriptions. She appreciated that I didn't expect her to handle all the cooking and cleaning just because she was a woman. I appreciated that she didn't expect me to pay for everything just because I was a man. Felt like a true partnership. Or at least I thought it did. In the second year, I proposed. I went the traditional route, asked her father for permission first. He said yes, but gave me this strange look that I didn't understand at the time. I planned an elaborate proposal at a botanical garden she loved. I even hired a photographer to capture the moment. I got down on one knee by the koi pond. She cried, said yes, and posted 17 photos on social media within an hour. That same night, her mother, Patricia, called me and said she was relieved Vanessa was finally settling down. That word, settling, should have bothered me more than it did. The engagement period is when the cracks started to show. But I was too busy with work and wedding planning to really notice. Or maybe I noticed and chose to ignore it. I had already committed. I had already bought the ring. I had already told everyone we were getting married. Sunk cost fallacy isn't just an economic concept. It can destroy relationships. Vanessa started spending more time with her college friends, especially this group of women who were either divorced or perpetually single. They'd have these wine nights where they'd sit around complaining about men. Every time she came home from those nights, she had this strange look, like she'd just been deprogrammed by a cult. She started asking odd questions like, "Do you think people can really be happy in marriage?" Or, "What if we're making a mistake?" I reassured her. I thought it was just normal pre-wedding anxiety, and we moved on. Then, 6 months ago, we bought a house together. That was the big step, the real adult commitment that honestly scared me more than the wedding itself. A 30-year mortgage feels a lot more permanent than marriage these days. But Vanessa was insistent. She had been looking at properties for months, sending me listings, talking about neighborhoods and school districts, even though we didn't have kids yet. The house we ended up buying was a 3-bedroom Craftsman in a decent neighborhood, about 15 minutes from my office. The house needed work. The kitchen looked like it hadn't been touched since 1987. The bathrooms needed updating, and parts of the back deck were literally rotting. But it had good bones, and it was within our budget. We put down 20% to avoid PMI, split evenly between us. Both of our names were on the deed, both on the mortgage, completely tied together legally and financially in a way that would have been a nightmare to untangle. But that was the point, right? Commitment, building a life together. All the things people say relationships are supposed to be. We spent weekends at Home Depot picking out paint colors, cabinet hardware, light fixtures. Vanessa had opinions about everything, strong opinions. The kind where if I suggested something she didn't like, she'd get this tight look on her face and say, "Well, if that's what you want," in a tone that clearly meant it wasn't. And somehow I'd feel like an idiot for even suggesting it. But there were good moments too. Painting the bedroom together on a Saturday, getting more paint on each other than on the walls, grilling in the backyard for the first time, even though the deck felt like it might collapse, lying on the living room floor after moving all the furniture in, completely exhausted but satisfied, half convinced we might fall through the floor. Those moments felt real, like we were building something solid. The place cards arrived on a Tuesday afternoon in late September. I remember that clearly because the sunlight was streaming through the bay window of the house we'd bought 6 months earlier, hitting the hardwood floors at just the right angle. Those floors were one of the reasons we bought the place. Original oak from 1924, refinished into this perfect honey gold color. I had just finished putting together the last piece of furniture, a ridiculously complicated bookshelf for what we called our shared library. I'd been putting it off for weeks because the instructions were in 3 languages, and somehow none of them were helpful. The smell of fresh pine and coffee filled the air, mixed with a faint trace of paint from the guest bedroom I had touched up that morning. It was one of those quiet, perfect moments you mentally bookmark, the kind you assume you'll look back on someday when you're older. Vanessa was sitting at the dining table, completely surrounded by wedding planning materials. 3 massive binders, all color-coded: venue, catering, decorations. Fabric swatches in different shades of cream and gold pinned to a board. Place cards scattered everywhere, arranged in a system only she understood. She was carefully writing names in her elegant, looping cursive, the one thing she always said her mother taught her that was actually beautiful. Each card probably took 5 minutes, but she insisted on handwriting them because printed labels were tacky. "Look at this, Blake," she said, holding one up. "Mr. and Mrs. Henderson. It looks so official." I walked over, wiping sawdust from my hands onto my jeans, and kissed the top of her head. Her hair smelled like coconut and vanilla shampoo. "It is official," I said. 2 weeks. We're almost there." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. I'd been noticing that more and more lately, that distant look, like her mind was somewhere else. I figured it was just pre-wedding stress. I'm an architect, I understand pressure. I assumed she was just overwhelmed with all the final details. "I was thinking," she said, her voice a little too light, "maybe we should have a separate kids' table after all. My cousin's twins are pretty energetic." "Whatever you think is best, honey. You're the CEO of Operation I Do." I went to make us more coffee. This was our life. Comfortable silences, shared projects, easy teasing. We had built this, the house, the future, us. For 3 years, it had felt like the most solid thing in my life. More permanent than any building I'd ever designed. That night, that solidity turned to sand. I was in bed reading a novel on my tablet when she came in. She had been quiet all evening, saying she had a headache. But she didn't get ready for bed. Instead, she sat on the edge of the mattress with her back to me. I could feel the shift in the springs under her weight. "Blake." Her voice was small, tight. "We need to talk." I set the tablet down. My heart did that sudden stutter, the kind you feel right before a drop on a roller coaster you didn't know you were on. "Okay. What's going on? Is it the venue coordinator again? Do I need to go down there?" "It's not the venue." She took a sharp, uneven breath. "It's everything." I sat up, leaning against the headboard. "What do you mean, everything? Talk to me." She turned toward me, and in the dim glow of my tablet, I saw her face, streaked with tears. My first instinct was to reach out to her, to comfort her. But I stopped myself. There was a wall between us, something invisible but very real. "I can't do this," she whispered. The words hit me like a physical blow. "I'm so sorry, Blake. I can't marry you." The world didn't shatter. It just stopped. The hum of the refrigerator faded. The clock on the nightstand went silent. All I could hear was my own blood pounding in my ears. "What are you talking about?" I asked. My voice was strangely calm. "Is this cold feet? Because that's normal, Vanessa. Everyone says that's normal." She shook her head, tears falling faster now. "It's not cold feet. It's my heart. It's not in it." "It's not in it?" I repeated. The words felt foreign and stupid coming out of my mouth. "We bought a house together. We have joint insurance. We're getting married in 14 days. Your heart has seemed pretty in it for the last 3 years." "I know," she cried, her voice rising. "I thought it was. I thought I was over him. I really did. But every time I look at these place cards, every time I taste the cake samples, every time I pick a song for the first dance, I don't think of you and me. I think of him." The air left my lungs. Him. There was only one him that carried that kind of weight. "Tyler," I said. The name felt like a curse in the quiet room. Her ex, the one from before me. The guy with the motorcycle and the reckless smile. The one who broke her heart, and whose shadow I'd spent years trying to erase. She nodded, and a fresh wave of sobs hit her. She looked completely miserable, but all I felt was this cold numbness spreading through me. "He reached out a few months ago," she said, "just to talk. And we started talking, and everything came rushing back. The passion, the intensity. It was never like that with us, Blake. What we have is comfortable. It's safe. But with him, I feel alive." Each word landed like a precise surgical cut. "So," I said, my voice still flat, completely empty of the anger that should have been there. "Let me get this straight. For the past 4 months, while we've been planning our wedding, booking a venue, sending invitations, buying a house, you've been emotionally involved with your ex-boyfriend?" "It wasn't like that," she said quickly, the classic line. "It just happened. I never meant to hurt you. I'm just so confused. I can't marry you when I'm in love with someone else. It wouldn't be fair to you." The hypocrisy was so massive, so unbelievable. I almost laughed. The unfairness wasn't the result of this conversation. It was the foundation of it. I looked around our bedroom. The photo of us in Costa Rica on the dresser. The closet where her clothes hung next to mine. The stack of wedding binders visible through the doorway. It all looked fake now, like a stage set. The man I had been 2 minutes ago would have begged. He would have reminded her of our good memories. He would have promised to be more passionate, less safe. He would have fought for her. But that version of me was gone, destroyed in 6 sentences. I looked at her, this woman crying because she was breaking her own heart while betraying me. And suddenly, I saw it clearly. The whole story she had built in her head. The tragic heroine, torn between safe, dependable Blake and exciting, passionate Tyler. And I was done being a character in her story. I swung my legs out of bed and stood up. I felt calm. Not peaceful. More like the kind of calm that comes after a diagnosis, when the worst has been confirmed and all that's left is figuring out what to do next. "Okay," I said. She stared at me, her sobs catching in her throat. "Okay? What does that mean?" "It means I understand," I said, walking toward the door. "You're in love with Tyler. You can't marry me." Message received. "Blake, wait." She jumped off the bed. "Aren't you going to say anything else? Aren't you angry? Yell at me or something." I paused in the doorway, my hand resting on the frame. I looked back at her, at the confusion on her tear-streaked face. She had expected drama, a scene, something worthy of the story she had created. I gave her nothing. "What do you want me to say, Vanessa?" I asked. "You've been very clear. You think what we built is just comfortable. You think he makes you feel alive. I'm not going to beg you to see value in a life you've already decided to throw away." I turned and walked down the hallway toward the spare room, the floor cool under my feet. Behind me, I heard her choke on a sob. I didn't look back. The first phase was over. The demolition had begun. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't have, even if I wanted to. My brain had switched into pure analytical mode. The same mode I go into when a building design isn't working, when I have to strip it down to the studs and start over. I sat in the spare room with my laptop open and started making lists. That's what I do when something needs to come down. I plan the sequence carefully. If you remove the wrong support beam first, the whole thing collapses on top of you. But if you take things apart in the right order, you can walk away clean. First list: wedding vendors to cancel. I opened the shared planning folder Vanessa had spent 8 months organizing. Everything was there. Every vendor, every contract, every deposit, laid out in perfectly color-coded spreadsheets. She was nothing if not organized. The irony of using her system to dismantle our wedding wasn't lost on me. Venue: the historic gardens. $8,000 deposit. $12,000 still due 2 weeks before the wedding. That $8,000 was gone. But losing money was better than losing my sanity. Caterer: gourmet affairs. $3,200 deposit for a menu Vanessa had perfected over 3 separate tasting sessions. She had insisted on past appetizers during cocktail hour and a full 3-course plated dinner. Our wedding guests deserve a real meal, not some cash bar with chicken fingers, she had said. Well, our wedding guests were about to get nothing because there wasn't going to be a wedding. Photographer: some guy named Jonathan. $2,800 for 8 hours and 2 photographers. Vanessa had his work all over a Pinterest board: candid shots, artistic angles, black and white portraits. All of it was about to mean nothing. Florist: $1,400 for centerpieces, bouquets, and ceremony arrangements. Vanessa had drawn diagrams for every table, peonies and garden roses in blush and cream. At the time, it felt thoughtful, sweet. Now it just felt like a massive waste of money. DJ: $800. We had given him a do not play list longer than the actual playlist. No Cupid Shuffle, no Cha-Cha Slide, definitely no Macarena. Vanessa cared a lot about maintaining dignity at wedding receptions. Baker: $650. A 3-tier vanilla cake with raspberry filling and buttercream frosting. We'd done the tasting on some random Tuesday afternoon, feeding each other samples while the baker watched. At the time, it felt romantic. Now it just felt stupid. Total vendor deposits at risk: $16,850. The price of learning what happens when you trust the wrong person. Second list: financial ties to untangle. This one was more complicated. Money always is. Joint checking account. We opened it when we moved in together. Both of us contributed equally every month. Current balance: $4,200. Half mine, half hers. I transfer my share out first thing in the morning. Shared credit card. Used for house expenses and groceries. Balance: $3,100. We had planned to pay it off after the wedding with gift money. That obviously wasn't happening anymore. I pulled up the statement. Charges were roughly split 50/50. Fine. I'd pay my half and remove myself as an authorized user. Utilities: electric, gas, water, internet, all under both our names. I'd either transfer everything into my name or cancel it outright, depending on what happened with the house. Streaming services: Netflix under my email, Hulu under hers, HBO through my brother's password. The small, stupid things couples share, until they break up and suddenly everything becomes complicated. Third list: the house. This was the big one. The real problem. The thing I had to deal with before I could leave this city with any sense of closure. We bought it 6 months ago for $425,000. Put down $85,000 total, $42, $500 each. Mortgage, $340,000, split evenly. In 6 months, we'd paid maybe $8,000 toward the principal. So the equity breakdown would be down payment plus principal minus selling costs divided by 2. But here's the reality of selling a house fast. You lose money. Realtor fees alone take 5 to 6% of the sale price. Then there are closing costs, title insurance, inspections, all the extra expenses that eat away at whatever you thought you'd make. If I was lucky, I'd break even on my down payment. If I wasn't, I'd take a loss. But there was no way I could stay in that house. Every room had a memory, And now every memory was poisoned by what happened tonight. The bedroom where she told me the truth. The kitchen where we planned our future. The living room where we argued about paint colors. The backyard where I imagined teaching my kids how to grill someday. All of it was contaminated. Now I could buy her out, offer her something for her half and keep the house. But did I actually want that? Did I want to wake up every morning in the same bed we used to share? Sit on the same couch where she'd spent hours texting Tyler? Live surrounded by constant reminders of the life I thought we were building? No. What I wanted was a clean break. Sell the house. Split whatever equity we had. Walk away. Let someone else come in and make new memories there. Fourth list. The logistics of leaving. Because that's what I was going to do. Leave. Not just the house. Not just the relationship. The entire city. There was a position in Denver, the one I turned down 8 months ago because Vanessa's career was here, her family was here, and moving felt impossible while we were planning a wedding. The firm had been understanding at the time. They told me to stay in touch, said something might open up down the road. Well, down the road was now. I'd email them first thing in the morning. Worst case, they'd say no and I'd find something else. Best case, I'd be in Colorado in a month. 2,000 miles away from all of this. By the time dawn came, I had a plan. 3 pages of notes. 7 spreadsheets. A full timeline from right now to being moved and settled in a new city. 6 weeks if everything went perfectly. 8 weeks if it didn't. Vanessa found me at 6 a.m. Still sitting at the desk. My eyes burned from staring at screens all night, but my head was clearer than it had been in months. "Did you sleep at all?" she asked quietly. "No," I said, "but I've been productive." I turned the laptop toward her. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm canceling the wedding. All of it. Today." Her face went pale. "Blake, don't you think we should talk about this more? Maybe take some time? You took 4 months of time while lying to me. I'm good." My voice was flat. "The deposits are non-refundable. I'll take that loss. Consider it my wedding gift to you and Tyler." She flinched when I said his name. "The house is more complicated," I continued. "We're both on the deed and the mortgage. But I'm going to buy you out. Today." "Today?" she said, stunned. "That's not possible. We'd need an appraisal. Lawyers." I called a real estate attorney at midnight. "We're meeting him at 9 a.m. She just stared at me. "I'm offering you $10,000 over half the equity," I added. "That's generous, considering the situation. Where am I supposed to go?" The question hung there. Where was she supposed to go? Tyler's place, maybe. Her mother's house. Honestly, I didn't care anymore. "That's not my problem to solve," I said, closing the laptop. "You made your choice. Now you get to live with it." The meeting with the attorney was quick and efficient. Vanessa still looked like she was in shock. I don't think she fully processed anything. She just signed whatever was put in front of her. By noon, I'd written her a check for $62,000. By 1 p.m., her name was off the deed. She moved out that weekend. Went to stay with her mother, Patricia, which I'm sure went over wonderfully. Patricia had never liked me anyway. She thought Vanessa was settling by marrying an architect instead of a doctor or a lawyer. Well, now Vanessa was free to chase her passion with Tyler, the motorcycle guy. I'm sure Patricia was thrilled. Canceling the wedding took 2 full days. Each phone call felt like a small cut. "Hi, this is Blake Morrison. I need to cancel my wedding for October 14th. Pause. Sympathy. "Oh no. I'm so sorry. Is everything okay?" "No. But it will be. What's your cancellation policy?" Venue, $5,000 deposit gone. Caterer, $3,200 gone. Photographer, $1,800 gone. Florist, $900 gone. DJ, $600 gone. Cake, $400 gone. Total loss, $11,900. The most expensive lesson I'd ever learned. But I wasn't done. The biggest move was still ahead. 6 months earlier, I'd been offered a position at a firm in Denver, a dream role leading their sustainable design division. I turned it down because Vanessa's life was here. Because I thought our life was here. I called them back. Is the position still available? Actually, yes, they said. We haven't found the right candidate yet. Are you interested? Very. When can I start? How soon can you be here? 2 weeks. I listed the house that same day. Priced it to sell fast. We had 3 offers within 4 days. Accepted 1 within a week. Closed in 2 weeks. It was like the universe was fully on board with my exit plan. My friends thought I'd lost my mind. Dude, you're just moving to Colorado like that? My best friend Kevin asked over coffee. That seems extreme. Staying here seems more extreme, I said, because everywhere I went, I'd see her. Our coffee shop, our grocery store, our park. I'd run into her friends, her family. The ghost of our relationship would be everywhere. Why would I choose to live in a haunted house? Kevin didn't have an answer for that. I sold or donated most of our shared furniture. Packed up the essentials, my books, my drafting equipment, loaded everything into a moving truck, and left the house keys with the real estate agent. 3 weeks after Vanessa told me she couldn't marry me, I was gone. Colorado was exactly what I needed. The firm was incredible, cutting-edge projects focused on LEED certification and net zero buildings. Brilliant colleagues who actually cared about sustainable design. And the city itself felt alive in a way my old hometown never had. The energy was different. People were outdoorsy, active, optimistic about the future instead of stuck in the past. I bought a small condo in Capitol Hill. Floor-to-ceiling windows, mountain views that literally made me stop and catch my breath every morning. It wasn't big, maybe 900 square feet, just 1 bedroom, but it was mine. No shared memories, no emotional baggage, no ghosts in the corners. Every piece of furniture was new, chosen by me, placed exactly where I wanted it, no negotiating, no compromising. The first few weeks were rough. I won't lie. I'd wake up and instinctively reach for someone who wasn't there anymore. I'd start to tell Vanessa about my day before remembering she wasn't part of my life anymore. But slowly, that faded. The habits, the reflexes, the muscle memory of being in a relationship started to disappear. Eventually, they were gone. I started hiking every weekend. Colorado has 58 peaks over 14,000 feet. They call them 14 airs. I made it my mission to summit as many as I could. There's something about being that high up that clears your head. The thin air forces you to slow down, to focus on every breath, every step. You can't think about relationship drama when you're at 13,000 feet and your lungs are on fire. You're just trying to keep going. Honestly, it's a pretty good metaphor for life. I joined a hiking group and started making new friends. People who knew me as Blake the architect, not Blake, the guy whose fiancée left him. They didn't know about Vanessa, or Tyler, or any of the drama. To them, I was just the guy who brought good trail snacks and could identify rock formations. A clean slate, a fresh start. Work was challenging in the best way. I was leading the design on a massive mixed-use development. Residential, commercial, and green space all integrated to minimize environmental impact. Exactly the kind of project I dreamed about since architecture school. My old firm had been solid but predictable. This new place, it was different. They pushed boundaries, tried new ideas, actually innovated instead of copying what had worked before. I didn't check Vanessa's social media. I blocked her number, her email. Clean break, total separation. I told Kevin he could update me if something truly important happened. But otherwise, I didn't want to know. I didn't want to hear about her life, her struggles, her choices. She made her decision. I made mine. Now we both had to live with the consequences. The first update came about a month after I moved. Kevin texted me, "Tyler dumped her. Thought you should know." I stared at the message for a while. Tried to feel something, satisfaction, maybe vindication. But all I felt was mild curiosity. Like hearing about a stranger having a bad day. I replied, "Thanks for letting me know." That was it. No questions. No follow-up. Just acknowledgement. Kevin called me 5 minutes later. "Dude, that's it," he said. "That's all you're going to say?" He dumped her after a month. 1 month. She blew up your entire life for a guy who lasted 30 days. Don't you feel anything? Vindicated? Justified? Kevin, I said. I moved on. What she does now, what happens to her, who hurts her. It's not my story anymore. It's hers. There was a pause. That's cold, man. No, I said. It's healthy. Cold would be enjoying her suffering. I just don't care enough to feel anything about it. Kevin still kept me updated, though. He couldn't help himself. Apparently, Tyler had never planned anything serious. He was bored. Reached out to his ex for fun. Got an ego boost from pulling her away from her fiancé. But once the novelty wore off and once he realized Vanessa actually wanted something real, he bailed. Said he needed to find himself. Some cliché excuse like that. Vanessa didn't take it well. She spiraled. Lost her job. Couldn't focus. Kept calling in sick. Eventually got fired for poor performance. Moved back in with her mother. And then, she started texting me again. From new numbers every time I blocked the old ones. The texts followed a predictable pattern. First came denial. This is all a huge mistake. We need to talk. Please respond. Then anger. You're a coward for running away. A real man would have fought for our relationship. Then bargaining. If you just give me another chance, I can prove to you that we belong together. I was confused. I made a mistake. Then depression. My life is falling apart. I've lost everything. Please just talk to me. I didn't respond to any of them. What was there to say? She made her choice, based on passion, intensity, and feeling alive. Now she was living the consequences of that choice. And those consequences weren't mine to fix. The messages kept coming. Sometimes daily. Sometimes 3 times a day. I blocked every new number as it appeared, but she always found another way. Borrowed phones from friends. Calls from work numbers. Online texting services. She was persistent. 2 months after I moved, Patricia called my cell. I almost didn't answer, but a cold curiosity got the better of me. Blake, it's Patricia. Her tone was exactly the same as always, sharp, commanding, assuming compliance. Hello, Patricia, I said. What can I do for you? She ignored the politeness. We need to talk about Vanessa. She's in a very bad way. That animal she left you for has destroyed her. She's not eating. She's not sleeping. She's a shadow of herself. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. My voice was completely flat, no emotion in it at all. Aren't you going to do something about it? She snapped. You loved her once. A real man would show compassion. She made a mistake. People make mistakes, Blake. Don't you still care about her at all? This was the moment. The trap. If I agreed, I'd be pulled back into the drama. If I got angry, I'd prove I still cared. So I chose a third option. The truth. Patricia, I said, calm and steady. Vanessa didn't make a mistake. She made a conscious, sustained choice to betray me 2 weeks before our wedding. The person you're describing, the one who isn't eating or sleeping, is dealing with the direct consequences of that choice. Her well-being is no longer my concern. It hasn't been for a long time. I hope she gets the help she needs, but it won't be from me. Goodbye. I hung up on her sputtering protests, and I knew that would be the final straw for Vanessa. Not the words, the calmness, that unshakable logic she couldn't argue with. It denied her the emotional reaction she needed to justify her story. Less than 24 hours later, the mask finally slipped. A final text appeared on my screen from yet another unknown number. You are a cold, heartless person. You never really loved me or you would have fought for me. You just gave up and ran away. You're a coward. I'm glad I didn't marry you. There it was. The final version of the story she had rewritten in her head. Now I was the villain for not begging her to stay after she told me she loved someone else. The coward for not fighting for a relationship she had already destroyed. I didn't block the number. I just deleted the message. She had played her last card. And it was worthless. She had nothing left. No power. No leverage. Nothing. Life in Denver was good. Really good. The kind of good that makes you realize, in hindsight, how unhappy you were before without even noticing it. Work was challenging in the best way. I was leading the design on a net-zero office building, one of the most sustainable structures in the state. My days were full in the most satisfying way possible. Pure problem-solving, creative thinking, building something meant to last. I joined a hiking group and started tackling 14 airs on weekends. There's something about standing on a 14,000-foot peak that clears your mind completely. The world spread out below you, your lungs burning, your legs shaking. You're reminded what actually matters. And your ex-fiancé's drama doesn't make the list. I dated casually. Nothing serious. Nothing heavy. A few dinners here. A concert there. It felt good to remember I was still a person who could be wanted. Not just someone who had been discarded. Months passed. Fall turned into winter. I learned to ski. Winter turned into spring. I bought a road bike and started cycling mountain passes. Spring turned into summer. I got promoted to senior design lead. A year after signing the house transfer papers, my new firm sent me back to my old city for a major client presentation. It was my first time back. The city felt smaller somehow, like a suit I had outgrown. The presentation went well. Afterward, as I was packing up my laptop, my phone vibrated. It was my lawyer from the house sale. The final paperwork, some tax document we'd missed, was ready for my signature. I could sign it electronically, or I could stop by his office a few blocks away before my flight. I chose to go in person. I wanted every last thread severed. As I walked out of the sleek high-rise, document in hand, I felt a deep sense of closure. The chapter was officially, legally over. I decided to grab one last coffee from the place Vanessa and I used to go on Sundays. Not out of nostalgia, but as a kind of exorcism. One final ghost to put to rest. I was standing at the counter waiting for my order when I felt someone behind me. A familiar scent, coconut and vanilla, but now mixed with something stale, cigarettes. Blake. I turned. It was Vanessa. She looked worn down. Her clothes were trendy but cheap fast fashion versions of what she used to wear. Her eyes had this restless, hungry look, and there were faint new lines around her mouth. The vibrant woman I had once proposed to was gone. In her place was someone harder, more desperate. Vanessa, I said, my voice neutral, like I was acknowledging an acquaintance. I can't believe it's you. She clutched her purse strap like it was the only thing keeping her steady. My mom said you were in town for work. I was hoping I'd run into you. I doubted that was a coincidence. Well, here we are, I said. Can we talk? Just for a minute, please. Her voice cracked with something raw and exposed. I looked at my watch. My flight wasn't for 3 hours. I felt no anger, no anxiety, just a tired sense of wanting to finish this last piece of unfinished business. All right, I said. 5 minutes. We sat at a small table in the corner. She wrapped both hands around her latte like she needed the warmth. You look good, she said, eyes scanning me. I was in a well-tailored suit, tanned from weekend hikes. My posture no longer carried the weight of a collapsing relationship. I looked like what I was: stable, successful, peace. Thank you, I said. You wanted to talk? And then it all came out, like a dam breaking. A rehearsed monologue filled with the same self-pity I'd already heard in voicemails and texts. My life is a mess, Blake. Complete mess. I lost my job. I'm waiting tables now. Tyler was a con artist. He maxed out my credit cards before he left. I'm living with my mom. It's humiliating. I see our friends sometimes and they look at me like I'm nothing. Her voice shook as she looked at me. I lost everything. My job, my friends, my home. You were my real life, Blake. I was an idiot. A scared, stupid idiot. She reached across the table like she was about to take my hand. I pulled back slightly. We can start over, can't we? Her voice cracked. We can get back what we had. I took a slow sip of my black coffee. Let her words hang there. Let her see they didn't touch me. Not anymore. Vanessa, I said calmly, firmly, like a teacher explaining something obvious to someone who refused to understand. What we had is a memory, and not a particularly good one. Her face collapsed. You didn't just break my heart 2 weeks before our wedding, I continued. You showed me that the woman I loved was a fiction. The real you was capable of a cruelty and selfishness I couldn't have imagined. She opened her mouth to respond. I raised a hand, not harsh, just final. And for that, I said, I'm actually grateful. It forced me to build a life I truly love. A life that isn't built on the shaky foundation of someone else's impulses. I don't hate you. I don't wish you harm. But I also don't think about you. You're a closed file, a lesson learned. Tears of frustration now, not sadness, filled her eyes. So that's it, she said. After everything, you're just going to be this cold, feelingless robot? I almost smiled. No, I said. I feel plenty. I feel the sun on my face when I hike. I feel the satisfaction of a project well built. I feel excitement for my future. I've just chosen to stop feeling anything for you, and that choice improved my life immeasurably. I stood up, sliding my carry-on over my shoulder, placed a $10 bill on the table for the coffee. I have a plane to catch. I hope you find what you're looking for, Vanessa, but it won't be with me. Goodbye. I turned and walked out of the cafe, leaving her sitting there, small, defeated. I didn't look back. 6 months after that coffee shop encounter, Kevin called me with one final update. I'd actually asked him to stop, but he said this one was important. She's engaged, he said. Good for her, I replied. To some guy who manages a call center. They've only known each other 3 months. I stayed quiet for a moment, processing it. Then I laughed. Not cruelly, just genuine amusement at the pattern. She's looking for safe and stable again, I said. The passion burned her out. Now she wants comfortable. I hope it works out for her. And then I added, more to myself than anything. That's really it. That's all there is to it. Kevin paused. That's all you've got? He asked. Kevin, I said. I mean this with complete sincerity. I haven't thought about her in months. My life is exactly where I want it to be. What she does now is about as relevant to me as a stranger's life. I wish her well, but from a very long distance. There was a pause on the line. You really have moved on, haven't you? He said. Completely, I said. That was the last update I ever got. Kevin finally accepted that I genuinely didn't care anymore.